Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a truly captivating narrative, a world where grand fantasy collides with grounded rural survival. If you're a fan of rich, atmospheric storytelling where the stakes feel deeply personal way before they get epic, well, you're absolutely going to love this. We are looking at the very beginning of a legendary journey, the origins of Hanli. I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine being born into a dirt-poor village where your biggest dream, your ultimate pie-in-the-sky goal in life, is simply to leave, to just see what's beyond those mountains. That was the daily reality for an ordinary 10-year-old boy named Han Li. Okay, let's dive into this first part, the boy called Second Fool. Yeah, you heard that right. The villagers literally called him Second Fool. Kinda harsh, right? But here's the thing, that nickname was completely misleading. Huntley wasn't stupid, not even close. Actually, he was quietly one of the most intelligent, observant kids in that entire village. See, while all the other kids spent their days chasing chickens around and playing in the dirt, the villagers just assumed Hanli was destined for that exact same simple life. But they completely missed his reality. He was harboring this secret yearning. He would sit and listen so intently to stories from Elder Zhang, the only educated guy in the whole village, just dreaming of distant cities. To Han Li, those stories sounded like a completely different universe, and he desperately wanted a ticket there. Which brings us to the reality of rural life. But dreams don't really mean much when your family can barely scrape enough together to eat. Han Li lived with his parents, 2 older brothers, an older sister, and a little sister. That makes 7 people crammed into a household where money was basically non-existent. Eating meat, that was an absolute luxury. Every single day was a literal battle just for basic sustenance. And his world perfectly reflects that. It's built entirely on natural textures. We're talking mud walls, thatched roofs, dirt roads. There are no flashy, exaggerated heroes here. Just Han Li, climbing up into the mountains every single day, looking exactly like what he was, a poor, ordinary boy anchored to a really humble, earthy existence. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast in his life. The days spent doing manual labor were harsh, they were sun-baked, totally grueling. But then, the moments spent with his family, those were warm, intimate, and comforting. Little did he know, a mysterious new world was about to completely shatter that simple balance. So let's talk about the unexpected guest. It starts on what seemed like a totally normal morning. Han Li heads out into the mountains, just like he did every single day. By noon, he's trekking home under the scorching sun, carrying a massive, heavy bundle of firewood on his back. But despite being completely exhausted, he felt content. Why? Because tucked away around his chest was a small pouch of red berries he'd managed to gather just for his little sister. But then, the afternoon hits. And when Han Li finally gets back home, everything is different. There's a guest waiting inside. And the contrast here is just staggering. You have Han Li standing there, tanned, covered in dirt, wearing worn-out clothes, and right across from him, this guest, dressed head to toe in expensive satin robes, looking remarkably well-fed. It was his third uncle, a guy who had actually made something of himself in the city. So naturally, Han Li is incredibly excited to see him. He runs right over, greets his uncle, and stands super proudly next to his parents. But very quickly, the whole vibe in the room shifts. His father is listening in absolute dead silence. His mother looks, well, terrified. Which makes you wonder, what exactly was this unexpected visitor offering? And how was it going to flip Han Li's life completely upside down? This leads us right into the whispers of a new world. Now, being only 10 years old, Han Li obviously didn't understand half of what these adults were talking about. There were all these bizarre concepts getting tossed around the room, whispers about the big city, martial arts, some kind of shadowy, powerful organization, and then the kicker. A rare, once-in-a-lifetime chance available exclusively to children his exact age. See, what these adults were actually whispering about were the realms of Wuxia and Xiangsha. If you're not familiar, these are traditional worlds of martial arts heroes and the mystical cultivation of energy to achieve immortality. For little Han Li, this conversation was the exact moment where his quiet, rural reality slammed right into something unimaginably huge. He had absolutely no clue what a cultivator even was. He just knew that this uncle had brought something way more valuable than whatever silver he had in his pockets. He brought an actual opportunity. For the very first time in Han Li's life, the door to the outside world had finally swung open. giving him the chance to leave his ordinary life in the dust. But remember, at his core, he is still just an ordinary, poor, observant village boy. So the real question is, as Hanley steps through this door, will this massive, cutthroat cultivation world elevate him, or is it going to consume him completely? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep that question in the back of your mind, and I'll see you next time as we keep breaking down this incredible journey.